Hi.
Hey.
I am stopping the right. So I am gonna, everyone knows how to minimize so we can see each other while we're, hold on, I'm assuming standard. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? See who we have here this morning. I see some, I feel like, remember the romper room? I see Sarit, I see Susan, I see Michael, I see Carol.
Oh, you're giving away your age.
I know. I see Beth and I see Janice so far. Good morning. And David, our guest. Good morning.
Hi, everybody.
I see it's still just 9:59, so we'll give it another minute or so. But good to see everybody. Carol, turn on your video if you'd like.
Mute yourself too, unless they don't want you to.
Who said that?
Can people introduce themselves while we're waiting?
Sure, please go ahead.
Just a quick.
Yeah. Sorry, you're the first one in my box. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sarit Ferreira, and I'm the Director of Education and Engagement at Temple Beth Abraham in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Great. Susan, you're next.
I'm Susan Murrell. I work at Hebrew College, where I'm the Senior Advisor and Director of Field Experiences. Nice to meet you.
Sure. Welcome.
Michael, you're next.
Hi, I'm Michael Shire. I also work at Hebrew College in the education program. Delighted to be with you, and so happy to be with everyone today.
Right. I see Rabbis Glass and Schwartz. Carol and Michael.
Go ahead.
Hi, Carol Glass. I've worked in the rabbinical school in various capacities. Right now, I'm one of the spiritual directors, and my family and I lived right near you, David, in
The Don Complex.
The Don Complex.
That's where I'm calling you from right now.
Right. Many years ago, but we remember it fondly.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Swartz. I'm a rabbi in the Boston area. I have a congregation. I work at a school, and I do some federation work.
Great.
Which congregation?
It's called Beth Tikva Synagogue. It's in Westboro, Massachusetts, little west of the Boston area.
We spent a sabbatical in Newton many years ago and had a great year.
Oh, that's where we live.
Yeah.
Good to see you both this morning. Beth, good morning.
Morning, Beth Penamacor, and I'm the Director of Education and Cantorial Soloist at Temple Beit Hayam in Stuart, Florida.
Great. And Janice, and then Roberta.
My name is Janice Knight. I'm the Director of Education at Congregation Shirat Hayam in Swampscott, Massachusetts.
Impressive library.
Yeah, it's the Duke Humphreys Library at the Bodleian in Oxford.
Yeah, I thought I recognized it.
A girl's got a dream.
There you go.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. My name's Roberta. I am the Assistant Director of Education at Temple Israel Boston, and I just brought this little guy. This is our 8-week-old puppy that my wife and I just got yesterday. So he'll be sleeping in my lap for this session. I'm not sure he's interested in the art, but he might be.
Oh, well, he's never too young.
Right. He's definitely going to be one of your stops along the way, Roberta, in our exercise. Susie.
Hi, I'm Susie Rodenstein. I teach along with Marion at Hebrew College, and I'm a proud owner of the Mos Haggadah.
Ooh.
Harvey, and then Emily, and then the Counters, and then we'll get started, and whoever else comes in will have to introduce themselves in the chat.
Oh, great to meet everybody. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Harvey Bach. I teach Hebrew and Aramaic in the rabbinical school, and have the mass edition of the Mos Haggadah.
Mass edition.
Oh, mine was the mass edition too. Sorry, not
well, because you're in Massachusetts. That's
right.
Fine.
It's our special version. Emily. Oh, her audio's not working.
I think my audio is not working.
Yeah, now it is.
We
Okay,
hear you.
perfect. My name is Emily. I currently live in Montreal, but I teach art-based electives at the supplementary school program at Congregation B'nai Israel in Northampton, Massachusetts. We used to live there, so I reconnected with them this year when their program went virtual.
Oh, fantastic. And what brings you to Hebrew College? How were you on our list?
I'm in the dual master's program.
Oh, okay, great. I knew I recognized your name. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Hi.
Do you know my friend Hayat Abuza?
No.
No. Okay.
All right, and then Marcia, and if Alvin's with you, and then we'll get started.
Hi, I'm just known about David Moss forever. He was actually in at the seminary when Alvin was, and I remember that I was doing a little bit of ketubah work myself, and I think Alvin said, "Oh, David Moss has some stuff," and I went to see it, and it was I was blown away because it was he had done a piece. He had done the black background, and he did the text by putting in the spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized this was in a totally different class than I was in. Of course, we have his and we have actually one of the original 500s in Temple Manual in Providence, but of course we have our own copy of the not real one.
They're all real.
Great. Marcia, you have the Rhode Island edition, not the Mass edition. All right. Good morning, everybody. So lovely to be together. Thank you all for making the time this morning. I think everyone knows me. I'm Marian Gribbetts, and I'm on the faculty at Hebrew College. And one of the things I'm privileged to work on is to provide professional development opportunities for our community. And these webinars are in that series. We call them For Our Teachers and Their Students, and our intention is to do exactly that, provide you, our teachers, with all kinds of inspiration and respite during these crazy times, but also provide you with things that you can bring to your students as well. In a minute, I will start, but before, so let me introduce David, then we're going to do one quick exercise. And then I'm going to turn it over to David. So those of you that don't know David Moss or his work, you probably are getting the vibe that this is someone whose Haggadah is somewhat well known, but not only his Haggadah, but also his literally thousands of amazing inspirational works of Jewish art that he's been creating probably his whole life. I know his whole life, but certainly professionally for many, many decades. I have the privilege, in addition to my work at Hebrew College, to work with David in a teacher institute for the arts that we do for day school teachers around the country. And that's been one of the highlights and joys of my professional life, and a joy in my personal life to get to know David and his wonderful family through that. So we're in for a treat. David's going to share some fun stuff with us today. But before we do that, knowing what our topic is and knowing sort of that this is first thing Monday morning, I want to invite everybody to do an exercise that we call the Hiney Exercise. And I'd like to invite everybody just to sort of take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And think for yourself, what do you need to let go of to be totally present together with us in this community for an hour? And just take another deep breath in and another deep breath out. Let go of anything that you need to put aside during this hour to be with us. And I want to welcome you all into our community for this hour of learning and sharing and growth. And welcome. And I'm going to turn it now over to David to really take us through a magical journey of journeys. So David.
Thank you, Marian. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. The feelings are mutual about working together, Marian. You've been fantastic mentor in our program and with our other incredible mentors. And it's it's been a life-enhancing, amazing experience, this Teachers Institute for the Arts that we've been privileged to work together on. And any of you who know any day schools that might be interested, here's a little plug. Okay, what we're going to be doing today is a little bit about mapping and journeys, itineraries, paths that we all take personally, jointly, and so forth. There's a great story about Picasso, and this guy comes up to Picasso and says, "Mr. Picasso, I just don't get your work. You have these paintings of people, and the eyes are here and there, and the body is twisted around, and it looks nothing like anybody." He says, "Why can't you just paint a picture like," he pulls out of his wallet a picture of his wife. He says, "This is a picture of my wife, and this is exactly what she looks like. Why can't you do that?" And Picasso says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She must be very flat and small." So what happens that flattens and miniaturizes images and reality when we do things like make maps? That's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today, about that transference from reality to mapping to representing, either in words or in images, some aspects of reality. And maps have always been very interesting to me in my work. So I want to take you through a little journey, and the notion of this is that we're going to be preparing you guys for creating your own maps of experience, both past and possibly future. And Marion will be telling you more about that when I'm done with my little slide presentation. But this is going to be a little hands-on, and we're going to ask you to do some of the same kind of thinking that I've been doing with these maps that I'm going to share with you. But the main idea of a map is it's taking some aspect of reality, condensing it, and showing it in relationship to other things along a journey, or in space or in time. So let me see if I can get up can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and the screen share finally worked.
Yeah, thank you, David. Looks great.
Okay, so GPS this is what GPS does, tells us, where we are or where we're going, in a sense, and where we've been, and that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. And I quote from the Parsha last week, the Ayeka, and Miriam started with a classic answer to the question, Ayeka, where are you? Which is Hineni, I am here. And that idea of presence is something that I want to work on with you today. And the Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where art thou?" And he said, "I heard a voice in the garden," etc. This question of where we are at any given moment in our lives, in our professional lives, our personal, our family lives, our travels, our experiences, is what we want to kind of focus on today. So I want to introduce you, in case you're not aware, of the idea of non-geographical maps of experience, maps of being, rather than maps of geography. These are maps that won't take you from A to B in physical space, but may in your learning or your experience or what you want to share with others. Few examples. This is from a book called You Are Here, which is about non-geographical maps. Wonderful book. Here's one from an Atlas of Experience. Okay, you look at it and it looks pretty much like a regular map, but its caption is passion. Can you see it? And do you see what's going on in this map? A little bit, okay? So it's using the mapping form, but in a very different way. Growth, the city of growth, export, kisses, waits, propose, caresses, rendezvous, desire, wavering. And this is a somewhat humorous map from 1928 of America. You guys are, you can see Massachusetts there, which the whole East Coast is basically Rexall drugs, hot dogs, restroom, gas stations, cigars, etc. So I've used the map format in different ways. This is what I call a dream map of Israel that I made a number of years ago, where you see the, let's see if I can point. You see the Mediterranean, the Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, and then some of the cities, Masada, Hebron. Somebody could perhaps mute who's ever on. So I'm using Psukim versus Midrashim to kind of bring you into the position of all the tribes where they were. And I just love the map form artistically, and I've done a lot with it. The detail of the same map. I've also made for each of our children, of our 4 children, what I call personal maps, where I took and tried to map their own personal lives. I usually do this for a 25th, 30th, 35th birthday, when they've developed and have their careers, and we know where they're kind of heading. So this is our daughter, Ariella Moss-Petersile, who's the director of Camp Ramah in California, in Ojai. And this is a kind of map of her life. So when you look in the detail, you'll see the places she's been: Berkeley, New York, where she's gone, Open University, theater school, and so forth. So I'm using the map form to kind of plot out the important places, people, and experiences in her life. Here are relationships as wife, cousin, daughter, sister, aunt, friend, and some of the people that are the major influences on her life, and so forth. The things that are important to her, the people that are important to her. So I've taken and tried to make a map of this wonderful daughter of ours. And as I said, I've done it of all 4 children. And there's the whole map. And if you turn it over and kind of squint your eyes, you will see her face at 5 different points of her life, from childhood to adulthood. So these are what I did for my 4 kids. Again, using the mapping form, but to contain a lot of information, feeling, experiences about who they are and who they've become. Again, if you squint, you'll see it come into focus. So I've also done a couple maps, and these are the most relevant for, I think, what we're going to be doing today and possibly in the future. This is a map I call Cycling Through My Mind. And it's a map of my bicycle journey, my daily bicycle journey from our home in Baca, where someone knows exactly where we live, to my studio in Chutzot HaYotzer, which is outside the walls of the old city. And just to point out some of the elements in this map, there's a title, which I'll read to you in a minute at the bottom. There is a path, a journey, so it is going from our home to my studio, so there's a directionality to it. There are images, about a dozen, I don't know, graphic images. And for each image, there is a text. So I'm integrating, as I do in almost all my work. Those of you who have my Haggadah know that there's a commentary to it, that have my book on Ketubot, know that every Ketubah comes with a long letter explaining the ideas. And here too, there's a visual, graphic element for every piece and a written element. And it's the interplay between those two that allow me to convey some of my ideas, my feelings, my responses to this 10-minute journey. So here's the caption: 6 days a week, I take a 10-minute bike ride through Jerusalem. I also bike through time, history, memories, and feelings as I pedal from my home to my studio. I made a little map of my journey. So really, this is what's important to me in thinking about this kind of mapping art, is that you're looking for the highlights, you're looking for the peaks, you're looking for the things that touched you, positively or negatively, the things that made an impact, the people that mattered, and so forth. So that's what you're going to be starting to look for, those moments that are, life feels, especially these days, very, very much the same, but there are these special moments, and this is what we're looking for. So here you see the images and the text. I use a little letter as a legend. So I'm going to just go through the map and kind of read it to you as you see the images along my bike path. Here's how they work together. You see the letters, and we're starting at the bottom with A. And what I wrote about A is my home, a truly remarkable place, radiant with the love, energy, compassion, joy, and light produced by its creator, Rosalind Moss, my wife. B, my bike, a purple Trek 1400, which responds perfectly to my every move. It takes me all over Jerusalem without making a molecule of pollution, and even gives me a bit of exercise every day, but on Shabbat, when it rests peacefully. C is the courtyard of our apartment complex, and it has light wells. For me, it is still illuminated by the traces of the footsteps of our children, Elisa, Yoni, Ariella, and Jackie, who grew up playing there. D, on the morning of October 21st, 1990, we panicked. An Arab who was working in our neighborhood pulled a long knife and started killing people next to my daughter's school. These two dark stones commemorate the place where Eli Altarez and Charlie Shalouche were killed. Charlie was an off-duty policeman who had a gun. Following standard orders, he shot first in the air and then at the attacker's leg so as not to kill him. I've made the two stones like the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not murder. Charlie obeyed that commandment, and it cost him his life. E, my old studio on Shimshon Street. For about the first 15 years of our being in Israel, I worked in a little underground storage room. See the stairs? With no phone or toilet. I got a lot done there. Here I tried to use my hands to turn the thoughts of my heart into works of art. Nice years. F, one day when I was about to publish the book based on my Ketubot called Love Letters, I biked by our friend Larry Roth here. I mentioned to him that we were looking for a sponsor for the edition, and within a few days, he generously agreed to do it as a beautiful act of love in honor of his and his Marsha's 36th anniversary. Remarkable things happen along this bike path. G, Iris Azulai was a 19-year-old soldier headed back to her base after Shabbat. The same guy who murdered Charlie and Ellie murdered her here, outside her house. Her parents keep nice flowers at a little memorial. H is the home of Charlotte and Maury Blumenfeld, the parents of Phil, who is married to our daughter Jackie. There's a nice lattice on their porch that I can see as I pass. The candles burning here remind me of the many joyous Shabbat dinners we have together. I'm so grateful for the 4 wonderful people our children married and I love all their parents. What a blessing. This is the electric power station built in 1929. I think about power as I ride by, what good and bad it can do. I'm glad I'm on a bike. J, Liberty Bell Park. This reminds me of the old country. The bell's inscription is from the Torah. It says, proclaim liberty throughout all the land and unto all the inhabitants thereof. In Hebrew, it's just 5 words. The bell is in the city of brotherly love. It has a crack in it. On February 2nd, 2004, they blew up the 14A bus here. Lior Azulai, 18. Vania Zuckerman, 18. Nathaniel Chabshush, 20. Yovel Oznat, 31. Rachamim Duga, 36. Yehuda Chaim, 47. Yafa ben Shmuel, 57. Ilan Abu Saderis, 40. L, the oldest biblical inscription ever discovered, was found here. It is around 2,600 years old. It's a tiny silver necklace that says, may God bless and protect you. May God cause his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. May God lift up his face to you and give you peace. M, lion fountain. These cute lions spit water out of their mouths. Lions are a symbol of Jerusalem. Lions are a symbol of power. I think some more about power as I ride by. I have a friend who is a lioness. Her name is Gigi, and she lives in Canada. In her eyes, I can see infinity. N, a peace monument. This is a tall stone sculpture with some swords turned into plowshares at the bottom. In Hebrew and Arabic, it says, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and they shall no longer learn war. Isaiah said that right near here. Oh, this is the best hill of my ride. I zoom down it and love the wind in my face. For 9 seconds, I'm 9 years old. Climbing it coming home is harder, but fun in a different way. This ancient aqueduct from the time of the Second Temple brought water to the temple all the way from the pools of Solomon south of Bethlehem. I used to bike to Bethlehem. I don't do that anymore. Q, Mishkanot Shananim. In 1980, I had a beautiful studio here for a year where I began my Haggadah. What a nice year. It's when we decided to move to Israel. I'm sure glad we did. R, there's only part of one pole left of a bench that used to be here. It had a little sign that I think said, this is the bench where Arthur Rubinstein loved to sit. S, I've arrived at my lovely studio. It's a great place to work. Here my hands still keep busy making things. How did I get so lucky? Should we go on to the roadmap, Marion, or shall we take some questions? How would you like to proceed?
Yeah, I think let's take a few questions and then we'll, David, how many more maps did you want to show? Just one?
Just the road map, but it's also got
Yep.
something about what I've done with kids with this format.
Okay, so let's take a few questions. Just unmute yourselves. I think we can, just jump in if you can, or try and get my attention and I'll call on you.
Silence from educators.
Susan.
I'm just curious what originally inspired you. Like, was there something in particular that inspired you to, to go down this path?
The path of making the thing, or the path of the bike map?
The path of sort of journeys and documenting them through this way.
So I think the answer to that is that what this really is about is what it is to live in Jerusalem, right? Where you have the joy and the sorrow, and you have, in a 10-minute bike ride, you can go through 3,000 years of history. physically and literally. And I just thought that's an incredible thing. As I said, I've always been interested in maps, and I like the idea of, I just love the idea of translating a fairly mundane experience, a 10-minute bike ride, into something that speaks to my moment in time and how I'm responding to Jewish history and the moment of living in Israel today and what it is and what it means. Does that hint at an answer?
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you. They're beautiful.
Can I
Michael.
follow up on that and ask you, David, about some whether this follows on from a tradition, either in Jewish, whatever the word is, iconography or artistic work, or in Greek work where they map the heavens, those kind of things. Does it follow on from some tradition?
Well, there's a huge tradition of mapping, both terrestrial and celestial. There is, I think, more literarily, the idea of journeys, Dante and the Pilgrim's Progress and things like this. The idea of itinerary and a journey as being an exploratory path. But I think specifically in this way that I brought them together, I'm not following any direct historical thing. It's that the main idea here, I think, is taking facts, physical experiences, places, and bringing them into some kind of combination of graphic and written form as a way of documenting them or expressing through them.
David, we have a question from Terry Swartz-Russell in the chat. She wanted to know if you ever get commissioned or hired to create these for folks for their journeys.
I don't think I have, no, but I could consider it. I love the form, and what I have done a lot through Kola Oat, through our Teachers Institute, is programs that we call Mapping the Journey. And that's what we're going to be doing with you. And that is using this format to encourage people to make their own. And it's been a fantastic educational, personal development experience to, we'll do just what I did now, show somebody this map, go through it, and then say, we do this a lot with groups that come to Israel, that we come to our Kola Oat studio. And ideally we get them at the beginning and end and say, okay, take notes while you're doing it. What are the things that touch you? What are the things that surprise you? What are the things that move you? Keep a log of them, pick up scraps of paper or mementos or photographs of the places. And then at the end, come back and you'll make your own map in this format, which you'll have to take home of your experience in Israel.
Michael Schwartz. You're muted though. Yeah.
David, I want to go back to the map that you showed of your daughter, and you did one for each of your children. When you turned it upside down, there were several images of her. Were those images from your head, your memory, or from photographs?
Photographs at various stages of her life.
Thanks.
Great. Any other questions before we go to see the next image and then transition to the educational implications? Anything else? All right, David, go ahead.
So you want me to do Rome in a day? So this is also very Jewish, but more historical than, I would say, the Jerusalem map. And this is a map of Jewish Rome in the same kind of format. It's not so much an itinerary as just bringing together the things we saw, but it also has the legend on the outside with the writing. The Jewish community in Rome goes back about 2,150 years. Rosalind and I went to visit it. I made a little map of what we learned. Okay, so here I'm collecting the images. Each one gets a letter and then allows the viewer to read it. A, the Ostia Synagogue is the oldest outside of Israel. It was founded when Claudius was emperor. Mindus Faustus donated a new ark in the 3rd century and got a plaque. Some things never change. Why does the mosaic floor have swastikas on it? The Arch of Titus is kind of long, so I'll skip over that, but relates to the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, and a very interesting incident we learned about it. Jewish catacombs, C, ancestors resting in little niches for all time. They're decorated with the same Jewish symbols I still frequently use in my work. It's nice that some things are eternal. Scholars from Rome contributed to Jewish literature in the fields of midrash, halakha, poetry, ethics, and even a major Talmudic encyclopedia. We stayed right off the effervescent Campo de Fiori, where produce and flowers are sold by day and students frolic by night. In 1553, the church confiscated every copy of the Talmud they could find and burned them all here on Rosh Hashanah. The plaque commemorating this event quotes the Talmud itself. The parchments burn, but the letters fly upward. We lean over to read it with our guide for the day. One of our sons, Talmud students, the delightful Catholic priest, Don Raphael Starnitsky. Towering above this tiny plaque is a large statue of Giordano Bruno, the humanist burned in the same spot in 1600. Hiney said, where they burn books, they will end up burning human beings. F, the ghetto walls. In 1555, the Pope forced all Jews of Rome to live within a tiny, miserable area a few blocks where the Tiber often overflowed. They were locked in each night. There they remained more or less for over 300 years. Using our own prophet's words against us. Right at the ghetto's gate, there is a small church where Jews were forced weekly to listen to sermons to convert them. The large crucifix and Isaiah's words in Hebrew beneath are still inscribed on the wall. They call us a rebellious people. I guess we are. The Jews stuffed their ears with beeswax so the weekly harangues were muted. Rome was home for Jews from many different lands. Each community had its own customs and synagogue. But then the authorities said they would only tolerate one synagogue in the ghetto. So the Jews gathered all 5 synagogues into one building and called it Cinque Scole, 5 shuls. The Grand Tempio Maggiore, which was built after the Jews were freed from the ghetto, collected furniture and objects from these 5 synagogues. I've drawn maps for each of them, the Castilian, Catalonian, Sicilian, Nova, and Italian. The map for the Italian ones are the ghetto itself. 36 Torah addresses are all lined up in a long case at the fascinating Jewish Museum of Rome. Each one is of exquisite workmanship and a perfect example of textile art. One says, "We are the embodiment of circumstances made glorious. When the Pope proclaimed that the only Jewish trade permitted was that of used clothing, it forced our Jews to accumulate fabrics from all over, including the most beautiful. And to those they added loving stitchery, embroidery, and every manner of delicate artistry to embellish their sacred Torah scrolls." J, the Arditine Quarry. On March 23rd, 1944, 33 SS police were killed by a partisan bomb in the Via Rasella. Hitler ordered that 10 Italians had to be executed for each SS man. The Nazis rounded it off to 335. 258 Italian political prisoners were easily obtained. They still needed to fill the quota, so 77 Jews were hastily added. All were brutally executed the next day in the quarry of Ardiantine. Of the 77 Jews murdered, 26 were handed over by the dreaded collaborator Celeste di Porto, the beautiful Jewish teenager known as the Black Panther. She would meet her acquaintances on the street and identify them as Jews with a warm embrace as the Nazis took notes. She received 5,000 lira for each Jew she betrayed. I've made the shape of the entrance of the quarry out of $1,000 lira notes. K. Cardinal Bia was the architect of Vatican II. It's when the church made teshuvah for their wretched treatment of the Jews. Now the vast Pontifical Gregorian Institute has a Cardinal Bia Center devoted to Jewish studies. Our son Yonatan teaches courses there. We met its director, its supporters, and one of its students. L, on Shabbat morning, we pray at the synagogue on the Tiber Island. Soldiers with machine guns greet us, even at this small synagogue. We climb the many stairs and join the warm and lively congregation. At the end of the service, a couple is honored for their 50th anniversary beneath a huge talit. We are graciously invited for a fascinating and delicious lunch by Fabio and Lucia Calderini and their family. Fabio's mother tells us the story of her survival during the war. She has written a book about it. The two children relate their lives as university students today. Carciofi alla Giudia, the famous Jewish Roman artichokes. They're offered up daily to tourists as the pinnacle of 2,150 years of Roman Jewish life. Food, so Italian, so Jewish. The last couple slides, I'm going to show you how I use this format with kids. This was a project I did at Camp Ramah, I think in the Berkshires, and I had a group of about a dozen kids. I showed them my bicycle map and asked them each to do a map of Camp Ramah, their personal Camp Ramah, and what were the points in their life that touched them, that are meaningful to them, and the results were fabulous. So each of these kids on the right, you see, so the quality of the art is not important. Collage is very good for this, or simple graphic drawings, but you see the A, B, C, D, where they talk about an experience they may have had in the synagogue or meeting their best friend. But the geography becomes experience, and it's very powerful. It's a great exercise. Okay, and here's the path of another camper, and what mattered along the way, and what touches her, and what she'll never forget about her camp experience. And another one. And then we bound them all into a book called An Amazing Atlas of Camp Ramah. 2012, it looks like. Okay, that's it. Now it's your turn, guys.
I just needed to unmute myself.
Okay.
Thank you so much, David. David, in the chat, lots of people were saying stuff like amazing and inspiring and wow. So never ceases to wow people. David's amazing work. So what we thought we wanted to do, and as you heard David said, this isn't, and you saw from the examples from Camp Ramah, this is an activity that we do a lot with kids. I've had the privilege through Hebrew College when we brought our BBYO Professional Development Institute participants to Jerusalem. Each year we would go to Kolaot and do the activity that David describes. And any of you that have been in my office, if anyone can remember a physical office, I have on the back of my wall there a couple of collages from various workshops that we've done on this mapping the journey. And I'm happy to walk you through some of our journeys if you're interested. So what we thought we were going to do today is I actually asked Sarit and Janice, and I planted them to share sort of their steps along the way since March to today, to sort of begin to think about what would it look like for us, each of us individually or collectively, to map our journeys personally, professionally, the things along the way that surprised us, that saddened us, that gave us joy and inspiration. So that's what the activity we're going to do, but I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to ask Sarit first to share the things that she sort of had a few minutes to think about, more than a few minutes, a couple of days. And of course, as Sarit and Janice are sharing, you might want to start jotting down for yourselves the stops along the way. So Sarit.
I just put in the chat, Janice can go first, but.
Oh. do you want me to, that's okay. Do you want Janice to go first?
Janice, are you okay with going first?
Okay, Janice is going to go first.
I wasn't sure where to start and where to finish. So what I became aware of in March and April, it was all about mobilizing and getting ready to go and pivoting quickly. So I sort of felt a little bit like I was spinning, but almost like a oh gosh, a dervish. You're spinning for a purpose, but you're spinning and you're just praying it'll work. And throughout the summer, it became more of a sense, for me anyway, anytime I think of a moment, it was, here's the target, I'm aiming for it, they've moved the target. So, sort of like being at camp and going to the archery range, only they put the targets on the backs of moving animals. And I felt like I was going downhill, almost going into a valley, because I could no longer see the 40,000 foot level. You know how they say you should ground level, go up, go up. Couldn't get there. And I really, it was a very difficult going down into the, in New England, we have these areas near woodlands where the glacier has gone and it left a chunk of ice, and it slowly became covered with things, but it sank down and it's created a dip, and those are kettles. So I felt a great deal as if I were in a kettle. Mm. And that imagery sticks in my head just because in order to deal with sort of the spinning and the lack of 40,000 foot view, I decided that every Shabbat I would go to a different community, national, or state park and hike somewhere completely new every Shabbat, just to essentially get out of my own head and out of my own little tiny apartment. So a great many kettles and glacial moraines and eskers and everything else that you find in New England when you're trying to go for a walk. It's never a straight journey. And that it was actually during one of those walks that I developed what is now, some of you know, my pass fail. My mantra for the year is, this is the pass fail year. And I'm trying to give myself and anybody I come in contact with a pass. And if you just show up, it's a pass. And the only way to fail is to not show up or to make somebody else's life harder. And that's sort of been my journey to this point. Paddling very hard. Sometimes the path is covered in water.
Janice, really beautiful. I'm picturing those kettle ponds and those eskers, and I'm already sort of imagining what your physical map would look like. So thank you for sharing with us. And I'm so like moved by that image of the ups and the downs and the whirling dervish. So even without yet putting it on paper, the images are already in my head. So thank you for sharing. If you didn't notice, David put in the chat that when we give this kind of activity to children, and maybe as you're writing yours, as when Sarit starts to go, thinking about sort of the extremes, the highs and the lows, and that too physically, when you make the map, you can do that as an up and a down and the like. So just to think about sort of brainstorming for yourself, the high points, the low points, the people along the way that made it better and worse. Okay, so Sarit, would you please share with us?
Sure. So I had a very, very busy year on many levels. I really like, David, your map of your bike ride, because until you showed us that map, I had a hard time understanding how, like when you showed us your daughter's map, how it all comes together. But the bike ride was really a great visual for me to understand. So it allowed me to think a little bit more clearly about what my journey might look like visually. If I go back to March, I had just found out that my job was going to be ending in June. And so I know I was on the kind of on the path of something new. And at the same time, we closed school and closed the temple, and everything went into quarantine for months. And I was faced with looking for a job at a time that people were losing their jobs because of economic changes and all of that. And I was lucky enough to find a job that also took me an hour and a half north from where I live now, which meant moving to a different state and a different home. And so we started the journey of dreaming up where we're gonna live and what that's all gonna look like. So from the low of the pandemic starting and me losing the job to the high of getting a new job with the hope of so much new and exciting things, to again a certain low of in the summer preparing our house to sell and all kinds of challenges that are coming up when you put your house on the market, and then the high of realizing where we're gonna end up living. And then I went to do tashlich with my husband on my typical walk. And I should mention another high was that I was achieving new records for my health with running and walking and losing a lot of weight, and really getting to a high point in terms of taking care of myself and being healthy. And right when I was almost at being able to run a 5-mile run, I was just a half a mile short of that goal. I broke my leg as I was going down to tashlich at the lake, and I tripped on the slippery bank and became non-weight bearing for 6 weeks. I'm still in the process of healing from that. In 2 weeks we're moving, and so I have to move, pack up the house and move to a rental while not being able to put any weight on my leg. So again, from the high of we sold our house and we're moving and we know where we're moving, to the low of the setback. And who knows where it's going to go from here, because in a year like this, could really go anywhere. But I can totally imagine the visual of my map, having a lot of these kind of very hilly terrain, which to me is also reminiscent somewhat of the New Hampshire landscape that we're moving to, and the visual of the beautiful fall in New Hampshire, which I'm unfortunately missing because I have to be indoors most of my days with my leg up. So that's kind of my journey of the last year. It's crazy, not a typical year for me at all. We've been in the same house for 16 years, and we're not movers and shakers typically. So this is a big deal, and I'm excited to try and create that visual map of this crazy year.
Thank you so much, Sarit. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both to Sarit and Janice for sharing so vulnerably and genuinely with everybody. It really speaks to the community that we have built here in our community. What I want to do for like half a minute is have people, I see Emily seems to be writing feverishly. Did anyone sort of make their list or a beginning list want to share just sort of a high and a low? Emily, am I correct that that's what you've been doing?
What we just moved 2 weeks ago. We've been out of quarantine for 2 weeks, and it has reminded me that this may be the last big move for our family in a while. We plan to actually put down roots, but this was the 13th move in 10 years. And so it's the first time I've actually changed my cell phone number. And so there's been a lot of thinking about sort of being in transition and putting down roots and all of the moves that have gotten us here. And so I was writing down highlights of each of the places that I have lived and sort of the high and low life moments in each location. Which is a different scale of geography than being in one place, but maps onto the experience of just being constantly relocating.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. So what I'd like to propose, thank you all, and those of you that have sort of been our regulars, and many of you on the group right now are, and certainly those of you that are here for the first time, I think you can understand the excitement, the creativity, the spark of taking a thing like a map that you could do just very linearly and how to sort of move it to another realm where you intertwine emotion and metaphor and thought and reality and bring those things together to create something that can be much more illuminating and inspiring for you and for your students. So I want to urge everybody to sort of give this a try with your students. Of course, the webinar is being recorded and we'll put it on the website, and I'll let everybody know when it's up there. So you can certainly go back and review pieces that David shared with us. I'd love, love, love to hear if you try this with your kids. And of course, the other thing is I would believe Nader without really making a total commitment. I'd love for us to revisit this later this year, hopefully in May or June. So if people want to keep a little journal for themselves of high points, low points, again, people along the way, things along the way that they want to mark. And I see Terry's asking me, David has offered to join us again later in the year. So that hopefully will be a little seduction to everybody to want to come and show and share our pieces. We might even want to collate them beforehand, and we'll do a little gallery walk together. So that's my intention. So, I'm not going to, it's a pass fail, Janice. So, no one's going to fail this assignment, but hopefully you've been inspired to try to want to give this a shot. Oh, and Terry's clarifying, is David available to come to a synagogue community? And Terry works at Temple Emmanuel in Newton, which I assume would have the wherewithal to do such a thing. So yes, right, David? I can't speak for you specifically, but so Terry, I'm happy to make
when it becomes possible again, God willing.
Yeah. Well, and Terry, do you mean in person or on video? Trying to unmute herself.
Yeah, I sorry, but there's background noise, so I'm trying not to be annoying to people. I mean, right now, I think on Zoom. I mean, I was thinking of the path of Zoom of COVID right now, and how I could just think of the ups and downs of how synagogues have been functioning. Just this is my own experience, everything shut down, and then it was, oh, we can do this, we can do that, what did we learn, blah, blah, blah. But I was thinking our community, and there are people, who are we've done amazing things on Zoom, and I think it's possible to do this as well. And I like the idea of, starting them off and then revisiting again. So I think people would really, we've done, artistically, we've done paper cutting, we've done painting, we've done all kinds of things on Zoom, which is kind of weird, but it's worked. So I think people would be interested. So
sure, be in touch with me and we can figure out what works best for you.
Okay. Thank you.
We have the co-op programming as well.
Yep. I'm watching the time. So first and foremost, I want to really just thank David for opening our eyes, our hearts, our minds this morning. And I hope that, again, that many of you will be inspired to open your hands to do something with the work that we've done this morning. I'm looking at the text, sorry. Okay. Our next session is scheduled for November 16th. How I want to leave, as everyone knows, normally we leave with a gift from one of our students, a bracha, a song, a thought. So what I wanted to share this before we leave is from Trua, and I'll put the link to everybody afterwards because I can't mess around right now with the computer. But it's from Trua, and it's a meditation on voting. So I want to share this with us all, as I hope many of us have voted already, and certainly to a meditation on where we hope things will go in our country and in our world in the coming weeks and months. So I'm going to read this to us. Yehi ratzon milfanecha be'et hazot zman bechirotenu shetadrichenu l'shalom. May it be your will at the season of our election to guide us towards peace. By voting, we commit to being full members of society, to accepting our individual responsibility for the good of the whole. May we place over ourselves officials in all of our gates who will judge the people with righteousness, and may we all merit to be counted among those who work faithfully for the public good. Open our eyes to see the image of God in all candidates and elected officials, and may they see the image of God in all citizens of the earth. Grant us the courage to fulfill the mitzvah of loving our neighbors as ourselves, and place in our hearts the wisdom to understand those who do not share our views. As we pray on the high holidays, may we become a united society, fulfilling the divine purpose with a whole heart. And as the psalmist sang, may there be shalom within your walls, peace in your strongholds. For the sake of my brothers and sisters and friends, I will speak peace to you. Yehi shalom b'chelkecha, shalva b'amanotecha, leman achi v'ra'i, adabrana shalom bach. So I wish us all a time of peace, and really finding peace and wholeness in all of our friends and neighbors, our sisters and brothers. And let's hope for good outcomes and peace in our country in the coming weeks. So thank you all, and hope to see you. I'll see many of you at other programs we're doing, and to see you soon, if not on November 16th at our next session. And thank you again, David. Thank you so much.
Amen, amen.
Thank you so much. Bye.
And also, just to mention, if anyone wants to stay and schmooze, I'll stay on for another 10, 15 minutes.
Marion, can you put that link in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Gotta find it.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Terrific meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
David, thank you so much.
Thank you. Amazing stuff.
I'm grabbing the link. Give me a sec.
No rush.
Yeah, just, a little challenging.
David, can I ask a question while we're schmoozing?
Sure.
Could you say a bit more about your preparation for the kids at Camp Ramah? What did you do with them to prep them to do such a beautiful piece of work?
So the first thing is I went through the bike map, so they get a sense of what it's about the integration of the writing and the art. But basically I was just asking them, to think about their, these are kids typically that come back every year and have been there when they're, start when they're very young and have these recurring memories of specific places where, they met their best friend or they're, had their best teacher or whatever it is. So I just try to get them to focus on their awareness of what are the meaningful experiences and places in camp. And then to list them and then to start thinking about how they can show that visually, take that moment at the same time they're writing a little few sentences about what that experience meant to them or how important the lake is to them or the Beit Knesset or the Kabbalat Shabbat every week where they're with all their friends and just express it. So it's a way to let them process their experience and document it and share it.
And do they do it individually or in groups?
Individually.
And
you saw that I collected them all as an atlas together. I wanted the format to be the same. I said, I want all your written piece on one page of it exactly this size. I want your drawings to be on the other page so that when we can fold them, they'll all be uniform and but what they did on those 2 pages was entirely up to them.
David, can I just go ahead, Michael? Then I just
last question. Did you recommend them doing an outline first or did they do straight onto the paper?
I don't remember,
I wanted to share, David, with everybody and with Michael in particular, how we do it when we have a group in Kolaot and what we did with our BBYO students. We model it after a different piece of David's artwork, the Akedah, and that's the symbolic key. There's a key code of colors to activities or moments or places. And the group itself chooses the 10 activities, moments, places, and the 10 colors. So then everyone goes off to do their own picture, but like all the brown are going to be the camel ride and all the yellow is going to be the corn, that we ate together in that fancy restaurant or whatever, so we choose it. So everyone's looks different, but the colors repeat themselves and you get the images. So there are multiple ways of doing it, sort of that it holds together communally. And just another, when we do that activity traditionally too, we do it as a pasuk by pasuk or aliyah by aliyah of a section of text, so that you see the red that will thread through everything. The red might be Rebecca's well, and you see that reappearing over and over and over again. So really cool stuff.
Can you just say what you used? You said instead of the bike map you used, and I didn't hear the...
It's David's piece on the Akedah.
And are those 2 things, the bike map and the Akedah, are they available, without buying the pieces actually to use, or how?
Well, so first of all, I put David's website in the chat here. And David, I hope it's okay to say on his website, of course, are the pieces, the prints that are available for sale, but those images are there, not of the Akedah, but of the bike map. Yeah. And I think, David, in terms of the Akedah, is there like one, you'd have to see the whole story in that.
Yeah, it's a 23-foot full accordion book. And I think both pieces have been sold out. I know the bike map for a long time has been, so they're not really that accessible. But it's more the concept behind them that's the important part.
Yeah, David, I'm pretty sure the Akedah is sold out because,
So you just show them from the website on screen.
Yeah, and Carol, I'm happy to work with you on that if you'd like. Okay. Other questions, comments, sharing? You waving goodbye, Terry? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thank you. You know, Carol, it's the kind of thing I'm picturing. I don't know what you do with the spiritual directions things that you do, but I could picture with our rabbinical students, like their spiritual journeys, their, you know, sort of doing some sort of activity like this.
That'd be really wonderful.
Yeah.
I've been doing artwork where we study a short text and then people do artwork, but it's not to create a piece of art. It's really to pull out of themselves how the text has impacted them in a unconscious way. So it's a nonverbal way of responding to Jewish text. And this is sort of a different form of that, I'm thinking. It's a nonverbal way of responding to life experiences that then you translate into, it has a verbal interpretation, but it starts non-verbally with art and creativity.
Right.
Well, the Akedah, the Binding of Isaac thing is very text-based. It's the entire section, basically the 22nd chapter of Bereshit, translated into images, symbolic images. So that is very text-based. But then, you know, how the way I use the colors and the formats, and it's all done with collage. And I find collage is very good because it's very non-intimidating. You know, people say, well, I don't draw, I can't draw a straight line. You know, you can cut paper, you can tear paper, and the colors are, no matter what you do with them, look nice.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for being on. Thank you. Susie, you're awake?
I'm gonna go, everyone.
She's not awake. So
She fell asleep.
thank you, Carol. Good to see you. Good to see you.
As always, so worth getting up early for. David, I think you did workshops for us, maybe at the Bureau of Jewish Education, where Marion and I worked together back in the day before I purchased my copy of the Haggadah, which is really
Probably the year we were in Boston.
yeah.
Just a lot, maybe a dozen years ago, could be.
Yeah.
More than that, I
Go
think.
back even further, I believe. I think.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife's family's from Boston, so we came quite a bit, and still.
Right. And now your daughter's family is from Boston.
Yeah, her husband.
Your husband's family, right? All right. Well, thank you
so much.
David. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
putting it together, Marion. It was great.
Thank
meeting
you,
these folks. That was very.
Yeah. No, I think
it would go well.
It went really well. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Oh, I'll talk to Elisa, but I think I'm going to need you guys to send an invoice. So I'll talk to Elisa about that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Speak to my boss.
Yep, I will. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you.
Bye. Chodesh Tov.
To you too. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mary.